What if the very thing you've been taught to hide is the exact thing that could set you free? What if becoming attractive had less to do with tricks, lines, or status, and more to do with radical, uncomfortable honesty? We live in a world where confidence is often confused with arrogance, where being a nice guy is sold as the ultimate virtue, but secretly resented. Was to stop performing entirely? Where men are told to chase, to pretend, to project strength, even if they're hollow inside. But what if the most powerful way to attract someone is a demolition of ego, a rebirth of authenticity, and a blueprint for emotional courage in modern relationships? This is the emotional revolution that models Attract Women Through Honesty, Dares to Ignite. Written by Mark Manson, an unfiltered voice in the self-help world, this book isn't a pickup guide. This is not about chasing women. It's about becoming a man worth being with. Not about seduction. It's about self-respect. Strip away your masks. Ask the hardest question of all. It's not about gaming the system. It's about playing no games at all. With brutal honesty and deep emotional intelligence, Mark Manson rewrites the definition of attraction. Not as something you do, but something you are. And what makes this book unforgettable isn't just its insights. It's the way it forces you to look in the mirror. Am I willing to be fully seen, even if it means being fully rejected? Because in the end, Models isn't just a book about dating. But before you can build any of those, you have to tear down something deeper. The fear that you're not enough. And that's where Mark begins the real work. It's a book about freedom. And that journey begins now. In the beginning, Mark Manson doesn't tell you how to win women. He tells you how he lost himself. He tried to become someone else, someone smoother, smarter, more desirable. But all it did was leave him feeling empty. The irony. The more he tried to control outcomes, the more he repelled what he truly wanted: connection. He starts with a raw confession. Years of trying to figure women out, drowning in tactics, pickup routines, and rehearsed charisma. This is the first truth Models delivers like a punch to the gut. Attraction isn't manufactured. It's revealed. The book divides attraction into 3 key pillars: lifestyle, vulnerability, and honest communication. He introduces a central idea. Men must become emotionally healthy, not just socially skilled. Because if someone truly saw him, his insecurities, his desires, his shame, they might walk away. That means facing rejection without shrinking. But this creates 2 devastating problems. It means embracing failure as a compass, not a curse. That means owning your flaws, stating your desires, living with emotional risk. Most of all, it means stopping the endless chase for external validation. In the early chapters, we meet the approval-seeking man. He's the guy who says what he thinks women want to hear. He hides his desires to appear safe. He overinvests, overanalyzes, overthinks, and underlives. You must build a life that you would love, even if no woman ever entered it. He might be successful on paper, polite in person, and even liked by many, but deep down, he's afraid to be seen. Doesn't demonize this man. He empathizes, because he was that man. And many men listening right now still are. Then he lays down a fundamental shift. Attraction isn't about impressing others. It's about expressing yourself. He explains how most traditional dating advice teaches manipulation, techniques to impress women, seduce them, get them to say yes. It places your worth in their hands. It creates a false self, someone who performs but doesn't connect. Mark introduces the idea of non-neediness, a term that sounds simple but slices deep. Non-neediness means you desire connection, but you're not dependent on it. You want love, but you don't chase it to escape your loneliness. You don't hide parts of yourself to earn affection. You reveal them to invite authenticity. This isn't easy, because to be truly non-needy, you must first become whole. This is where the real journey begins. Mark pushes men to upgrade their lifestyle, not to show off, but to live with purpose. Are you proud of how you spend your time? Do your friendships nourish you or drain you? Are your values lived or just memorized? Courage is deep work. Pursue hobbies you love, not ones that make you look cool. Surround yourself with people who challenge and uplift you. Prioritize your physical, mental, and emotional health. Not for vanity, but vitality. And then comes the emotional crux: vulnerability. Most men avoid vulnerability like the plague. They fear it makes them weak, less masculine, less desirable. But in truth, vulnerability is magnetic, not because it guarantees success, but because it signals courage. Manson breaks down how vulnerability, when practiced with boundaries, is the highest form of confidence. It says, "Here I am, all of me. You can accept it or walk away. I'll be okay either way." This idea begins to transform everything. It changes how men approach women. More need for clever lines or psychological tricks. Instead, a simple conversation with eye contact, genuine curiosity, and a willingness to express real interest, even if it risks rejection. Rejection, in fact, becomes a gift. Because now when a woman walks away, you don't lose your identity. You just saved both of you time. You showed up as your real self. It's all you can control. Around the midpoint of the book, Manson digs into practical examples. What honesty looks like in real interactions. It's not blurting out insecurities or dumping your trauma on someone. It's about showing congruence, making sure your words, actions, and emotions are aligned. He describes men who say they're confident, but their posture, voice, and behavior reek of insecurity. Or men who pretend not to care, but obsess over every text. That lack of congruence creates dissonance, and people feel it. The goal is integrity. Say what you mean what you say. Own your feelings, and don't be afraid of a no. At this point in the story, a subtle transformation begins. Men start to realize this isn't just about women. It's about self-respect. It's about cleaning up the internal chaos before seeking external connection. It's about understanding that emotional health, not emotional detachment, is what makes a man truly attractive. And just when the reader begins to grasp this new foundation, a lifestyle of honesty, vulnerability, and non-neediness, Manson raises the stakes, because living this way, it's not just hard, it's terrifying. But as he's about to show us that fear is the doorway, and what lies beyond it is freedom. By the middle of Models, the transformation is no longer theoretical. The real test begins when you step into the world and live it, where vulnerability is misunderstood, and where the temptation to fall back into old patterns creeps in like a shadow. But now, rejection feels sharper, because when you're honest, you're exposed. When you express your real self, and she walks away, it stings. It cuts deeper, because you weren't hiding behind a mask this time. Mark takes us into the emotional battlefield of real-world experiences, where honesty meets resistance. You've cleaned up your life. You've let go of manipulative games. You've begun speaking with courage. That's where most men panic. That's where they retreat. But that's exactly where the transformation sharpens. Manson urges the reader to lean in, not away. Rejection isn't failure. It's feedback. It's information. It's proof you showed up real. When you're real, you polarize. Some people will walk away, but the ones who stay, they're the ones who matter. He reminds us, you are not for everyone, and that's your power. This is where the book pivots from personal development into emotional mastery, because now it's about resilience. It's about doing the inner work consistently, even when the outer world doesn't reward you right away. Mark shares a deeply moving section on shame, the hidden force that drives most men to pretend. Shame is what makes a man think he's not lovable unless he's successful. It's what whispers, "Don't speak your truth, they'll laugh." It's what convinces him that vulnerability is weakness and neediness is inevitable. But shame dies in sunlight, and sunlight is truth, as the medicine Models offers over and over again. Truth without apology. As the book moves forward, Manson teaches the reader how to develop social skills rooted in being, not doing. No more routines, no more top 10 openers. Instead, you learn to express your attraction without apology. Be comfortable with silence. Allow a conversation to breathe without forcing it. Build connection through curiosity, not performance. There's a profound elegance in this approach. You don't have to convince anyone to like you. You just have to reveal who you are and allow the right people to find you. This also means getting brutally honest about your standards. Many men are willing to change themselves for anyone who gives them attention. But Manson flips the script. Do you even like her? Do her values align with yours? Are you showing up to impress or to explore compatibility? This shift, from validation seeking to value giving, turns dating into something deeper. It's no longer about getting women. It's about choosing women who align with your truth and letting go of the rest. Mark also tackles a critical distinction: the difference between neediness and desire. It's okay to want someone. It's okay to pursue. But it's not okay to attach your worth to the outcome. When your self-esteem rises and falls based on how she responds, that's not desire. That's dependence. Healthy desire says, I want you, but I don't need you to feel whole. That kind of energy is powerful and, paradoxically, far more attractive. And then comes one of the book's most powerful moments: the idea of emotional investment. Attraction, Mark argues, is not built through logic or checklists. It's built through shared vulnerability. When you open up about your passions, your fears, your truth, you invite her to do the same. That's what creates connection. That's what builds trust. That's what turns a conversation into a spark, and a spark into something real. The climax of Models is not a big romantic victory. It's not a magical script that guarantees results. It's an inner realization. You were never meant to chase love. You were meant to radiate it. Manson doesn't wrap things up with fairy tales. He ends with something far more powerful: ownership. Own your emotions. Own your boundaries. Own your choices. Own your rejections. Own your damn life. Because when you stop hiding, stop pretending, stop twisting yourself to be liked, you finally give the world a chance to fall in love with the real you. And that's the most seductive force on earth. There are no dramatic plot twists in Models. There's no villains to defeat. No love interest to chase across cities. But beneath the surface, this book is packed with characters. And the most important one is you. This is a story about a man, any man, waking up from the fog of insecurity. A man who's tired of pretending, performing, and pleasing. A man who's ready to confront his fears, not to impress others, but to liberate himself. He shares his own struggles with brutal honesty, his failures, insecurities, and emotional stumbles. That transparency makes him human, not heroic. And that's the point. The hero isn't the man who wins every woman. It's the man who stops needing to. And then there's the shadow version of that man, the one driven by shame, anxiety, and fear of rejection. He's the one who clings to tactics, games, and masks. The one who constantly asks, how do I get her to like me? Instead of, am I showing up as someone I respect? This book is a journey of reconciliation between these two versions, and choosing finally to live as the honest one. Mark Manson himself becomes a subtle character, not as a guru, but as a flawed, battle-tested guide. The central theme of Models is this: authenticity is the new alpha. In a world that glorifies manipulation and masks, choosing to be radically honest is an act of courage. Mark demolishes the myth that vulnerability equals weakness. Instead, he flips it. Vulnerability is strength refined through pain. When a man can own his flaws without shame, and when you're real, you give attraction the best chance to find its way in. The idea that attraction isn't created by technique, but by coherence. When your words, actions, and emotions all point in the same direction, that's when people trust you. It's when you become magnetic. It's not because of what you say, but because of who you are. It's the freedom to desire without clinging, to connect without losing yourself. It's the ability to walk away, not as a punishment, but as a form of self-respect. When he can express desire without fear, when he can walk away from people who don't align with his values, that's real power. That's real confidence. Another core theme is non-neediness. To be confused with indifference or coldness, non-neediness is about emotional independence. Models also dives deep into inner alignment. One quote that sums up the spirit of the book comes late in the journey: attraction is not a choice, but honesty is. In other words, you can control who's drawn to you, but you can control whether you being real. This isn't a book about how to change for women. It's a book about how to become the kind of man who doesn't need to. Not because he's closed off, but because he's already whole. This isn't just a book about dating. It's a book about becoming. Because the real question Models asks isn't, how do I get her to like me? It's, am I someone I would admire? It's a mirror. It forces you to see where you've been performing instead of living, where you've been hiding behind charm instead of truth, where your need to be accepted has quietly become a rejection of your own self. But this book doesn't leave you in that mirror. It hands you a hammer to shatter the false identities, to break the cycles of neediness, to walk out of the prison of performance and into the open field of authenticity. Every click helps us bring more powerful stories like this to life and keeps the wisdom flowing. Thanks for being part of the journey. The lessons go far beyond relationships. Because when you stop trying to impress women, you also stop trying to impress the world. You build a life aligned with your values, not your fears. You find a quiet confidence that speaks louder than pickup lines ever could. And ironically, that's what makes you most attractive. If you're a man who's been silently struggling with rejection, loneliness, or confusion, if you've ever felt like you had to fake something to be loved, if you're tired of tactics and ready for truth, this book isn't just for you, it's about you. Models is not a how-to manual, it's a wake-up call to stop chasing and start becoming. If this story moved you, challenged your thinking, or simply sparked your curiosity, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.